New York City. Through murder and betrayal, two mafia captains fight their way to the top of the Lucchese crime family.
These guys didn't have any training, any schooling when it came to La Cosa Nostra. They knew how to kill.
The new bosses embark on a bloody campaign of violence that rocks the New York underworld. Bound by the mafia code of obedience, their troops have no choice but to follow.
You don't follow the boss, you die. Okay, so that's it. You don't break the rules.
But when the bosses themselves begin breaking the mafia's rules, their loyal troops draw the line. They turn to the FBI, and the Lucchese family is brought to its knees. November 1986. 3 New York Mafia captains eat breakfast at a home in Manhattan. The men discuss the future of the Lucchese crime family, one of the wealthiest of the 5 mafia families that dominate New York's underworld. All 3 of them are in the running to become the new godfather, but one is the clear favorite.
We thought a guy by the name of Anthony Luongo, we used to call him Buddy. We thought that he was going to be the next boss in the family.
But in the mafia, things are never straightforward. Murder is a tool, and this is a calculated power play. The assassins' names are Vittorio Amuso, or Little Vic, and Anthony Gaspipe Casso. The pair are so close, they are known throughout the Lucchese family as Vic and Gas. The Luongo hit is the climax of a struggle dating back over a year. In February 1985, the current Lucchese boss, Tony Ducks Corallo, is arrested on racketeering charges. Known as Ducks because of his reputation for ducking subpoenas, the FBI finally catch up with the Lucchese godfather. By bugging Corallo's car, they build the commission case.
The government says they are the board of directors of the nation's largest criminal company.
The commission is a forum originally created in 1931 during the founding of the 5 families. All 5 of New York's mafia families have representatives on the commission. And like a mafia United Nations, the commission enforces the mafia's codes of conduct and resolves conflicts between families. Tony Ducks is eventually released on bail, but he knows he faces life in prison. He must choose a successor to take over as the Lucchese godfather.
Family needs to continue. Their family needs to get somebody that could run and continue to operate this criminal enterprise. It's almost like a private organization. You need another CEO to succeed.
Vic Amuso and Anthony Casso are desperate to take control of this powerful mafia family. With 120 full members and around 1,000 associates, the Lucchese's command particular respect in La Cosa Nostra, the New York mob's preferred name for itself. The Lucchese heartland is in Harlem and the Bronx, and all the previous bosses have come from that faction. But the Lucchese's also command factions in Brooklyn and New Jersey.
The strength always came from Harlem, 108th Street, they used to say, you know. That represented the strength of the crew. Always came from there.
Tommy Riccardi is a captain from New Jersey.
The New York faction of the Lucchese family could count on the New Jersey faction for anything that they needed. Whether it was a murder or whatever they wanted, they can count on New Jersey to handle it for them.
For 50 years, the Lucchese family has remained united. But now captains from the different factions are fighting to become the new godfather. Vic and Gas are from Brooklyn, and their biggest rival, Buddy Luongo, is a captain from the Bronx.
The level of paranoia that normally exists in the street was heightened. Everybody's wondering maybe what the next moves are going to be. In the Lucchese family,
Vic and Gas are the family's biggest earners, which makes them strong contenders for the leadership. In the mafia, everyone kicks up a percentage of their profits to the boss, so the best earners command the most respect. But Tony Ducks has a problem with the two Brooklyn captains. They are drug dealers, a career that has been outlawed by the Mafia Commission.
The reason why La Cosa Nostra doesn't want its members in the drug business is because, first of all, the time it carries. They're not small sentences, they're usually life sentences or 40, 50-year sentences, and it could create a lot more rats.
In 1986, the United States is in the grip of a cocaine epidemic, with nearly 6 million users nationwide. Responding to public outcry, the government imposes draconian jail sentences. The Mafia Commission takes steps to ensure its members stay out of the drug business.
Guys were selling drugs, but they made examples of a few guys. They killed them. Many guys, they killed them. You got caught with drugs, you got killed.
But Vic and Gas are prepared to take the risk. By defying the Commission's edict, they have risen to become the family's top-earning captains.
Guys around them gravitate to them because they're earners and they're strong.
They may command respect on the street, but unlike Buddy Luongo, Vic and Gas lack support from the Lucchese stronghold in the Bronx. Tony Ducks needs to test whether Vic and Gas have what it takes to become Mafia leaders. In December 1985, an opportunity presents itself. John Gotti, an ambitious captain from the rival Gambino family, has shocked the Mafia world by murdering his own boss in a brazen, unsanctioned bid for power.
3 gunmen in New York City tonight shot and killed a man identified by police as Paul Castellano, reputed chief of the Gambino Mafia family.
You can't do that. First of all, he didn't have the okay to kill Paulie Castellano. And he made himself boss. He was no boss. He didn't know that he sealed his own death warrant at that time.
Gotti has broken one of the Commission's oldest rules, and Tony Ducks is furious. He demands that Vic and Gas take revenge on the Gambino captain, but the order comes with a catch.
Let's kill John Gotti with a bomb. And then we'll say the Zips did it. Meaning Italian organized crime.
Bombs are the trademark of the Sicilian Mafia.
The La Cosa Nostra in America does not use a bomb because too many innocent people could get hurt, bystanders or innocent people that might happen to get in the car at the time.
Eager to prove themselves to Tony Ducks, Vic and Gas decide to take the John Gotti contract. April 13th, 1986. Vic and Gas get a tip that Gotti is inside a well-known Gambino hangout in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. They see his car parked outside. With the trap set, Vic and Gas wait for Gotti and an associate to leave the club. Casso signals their triggerman. Vic and Gas leave the scene, confident they have hit their mark. But the next day, they find out they've made a serious error.
One man was killed. He was 58-year-old Frank DeChico, described as a lieutenant to John Gotti.
Though they have failed to kill Gotti, Frank DeChico, his right-hand man, dies in the blast. Tony Ducks is pleased with the outcome. Vic and Gas are one step closer to being chosen as the new leaders of the Lucchese family. But failing to kill John Gotti was a big mistake. It doesn't take Gotti long to figure out who was behind the bomb plot. September 14th. While parked on a Brooklyn street, Anthony Gas Casso is enjoying a late-night ice cream. Another car pulls up alongside him. A shotgun blast tears through his flesh. He dives across a parking lot to a nearby Chinese restaurant. Seeking refuge among diners, Casso staggers into the room and collapses. But he's alive and angry. Police interview Casso in the hospital, but he refuses to talk.
having survived this, and felt that his reputation was there. Who dare come after him? And so he had to prove a point, and his point was getting the guys responsible for this particular murder.
Caso is beyond fury. The attempt on his life has had a profound effect.
He's broken. Something inside of him has snapped. This is not the same Anthony Caso you knew before.
One name rings out on the street. The leader of the plot is the man named Jimmy Heidel. Caso pays an associate $35,000 to have Heidel kidnapped and delivered to a basement in Brooklyn.
Anthony Caso was hell-bent on revenge. That's what his motive for it.
Early evening, October 18th, 1986. Caso stands over Heidel with a pistol.
He tortured him to find out who else was involved in the murder. The way he tortured him, as he explained it to me, was he just shot him repeatedly in his extremities, working up from his ankle, through his leg, his shoulders, down his arm, limb by limb, until Jimmy Heidel begged him to finish him off.
Caso takes pleasure in Heidel's lingering death. He forces Heidel to give up the name of the man who hired him before granting Jimmy Heidel his final wish. Heidel was hired by one of John Gotti's soldiers, Mickey Paradiso. Caso had double-crossed Paradiso in a big drug score months before. It's clear proof that John Gotti sanctioned the hit on Anthony Caso.
We told the Gambinos that they had to kill Mickey Paradiso because they shot gas, you know.
But Gotti fails to punish the Gambino soldier. It's a slap in the face for Anthony Caso and dents his reputation in the mafia hierarchy. To save face, Caso leaks news of the Heidel murder, hoping it will reach his boss, Tony Dux Corallo.
The killing of Jimmy Heidel was something that he wanted everyone to know that he was personally responsible for.
Caso hopes his ruthlessness will win favor from the outgoing boss.
Tony Dux Corallo, boss of the Lucchese family, convicted of racketeering and a laundry list of other crimes, including...
November 1986. Lucchese boss Tony Dux Corallo is found guilty of racketeering, along with 8 other top mobsters. Corallo must at last pick a successor. The old godfather is impressed by the ruthlessness of 2 Brooklyn captains, Vic Amuso and Anthony Gaspipe Caso. As he waits for sentences to be handed down, Tony Dux calls Vic and Gas to a secret meeting. He offers the position of Lucchese godfather to Anthony Caso, but astonishingly, Caso refuses.
Anthony had ways, he's very, I'm going to tell you, he's brilliant. He's a very smart, wily, crafty guy.
Caso shrewdly recognizes that whoever becomes the godfather will draw the most flack from the FBI. He convinces Tony Dux to make his colleague Vic Amuso boss and to make him advisor, or consigliere. Amuso is torn over his new appointment.
We're walking down, he says, you know, Al, I'm the boss now. I said, oh, congratulations, Vic, you know. That's good. And he was like a little unsure of himself. He always had that tendency to be, I don't know, like I'm not good enough or I'm unsure of myself. He had that trait.
Amuso's lack of confidence makes him the perfect puppet. As consigliere, Caso will be the boss's closest advisor.
Anthony Caso was a big influence on Vic. Vic was a kind of shy guy, liked to stay more behind the scenes, where Anthony was more outspoken, more flamboyant, liked to take the reins kind of a guy.
The Lucchese family has new leadership. But by handing over control to the Brooklyn faction, Tony Dux has made a profound mistake.
There was some resentment on the part of the other factions. All of the power was being directed to the Brooklyn faction, and that didn't sit well with the family.
Vic and Gass's violent rise to power has created suspicion and mistrust in the family.
The Bronx faction had a little resentment because they had lost Buddy. Speaking with a few of them, they said that for about 4 or 5 months they were tormented.
Vic and Gass will not tolerate dissension in the ranks. They plan to execute anyone whom they deem disloyal. But before they deal with the family, Casso still has a personal vendetta to settle. Revenge on John Gotti. January 13th, 1987.
8 mobsters were found guilty of serving as commission members.
The boss of the Lucchese crime family, Tony Dux Carello, is found guilty in the commission case and sentenced to 100 years in prison. Vic Amuso and Anthony Gaspipe Casso are now the new boss and consigliere of the family. Anthony Casso has one thing on his mind: revenge on the Gambino boss, John Gotti. Gotti fails to punish members of a Gambino hit team who tried to murder Casso 2 months earlier. But killing Gotti will be difficult.
He made a plot to kill all the guys around Johnny Gotti. Then he's going to be last. This was their plan.
Casso immediately puts out a contract on Gotti's underboss, Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Sammy Bull. He was ducking us. He knew he was going to get whacked. Every time he see me, he'd duck.
Gravano dodges the Lucchese hit teams for months, and before long, Vic and Gass are forced to put their Gotti campaign on hold when they begin to draw heat from the FBI. By taking control of the Lucchese family, Vic and Gass have become a top priority for Special Agent Richard Rudolph. As Casso predicted, the FBI focuses its attention on Vic Amuso, the boss. As consigliere, Casso slips under the radar.
At that time, we began looking at really Amuso as opposed to Casso as the guy that we really like to target.
Agent Rudolph puts Amuso under constant surveillance.
We go out there on an everyday basis, and we would be out there all day and sometimes all night trying to follow him around.
But Mafia members are experts at counter-surveillance and evading the law. Rudolph knows surveillance alone will not be enough to take down the Lucchese leaders. He needs something more. He needs informants, and Vic and Gass have a weakness. They make the fatal mistake of having direct contact with a bank robbery crew they operate, known as the Bypass Gang. Many members of the crew are street-level criminals who owe no allegiance to the mob. Any one of these men could now betray the new Lucchese leaders. But Vic and Gass have a very effective way of dealing with rats.
It's the only way really to be certain. In a situation of tremendous turmoil, when you don't trust anyone, then you have to get rid of those people that can be a detriment. So Gaspipe was getting information. Guy's a rat.
Vic and Gass keep one step ahead of the FBI. They send out hit teams to kill John Heidel and Dominic Costa, 2 members of the Bypass Gang who are ratting to the FBI. As Vic and Gass pile bodies up on New York streets, one by one the FBI's avenues are cut off. Free from FBI interference, Vic and Gass can now concentrate on running their new empire, or so they think. Vic Amuso and Anthony Gaspipe Casso's violent takeover of the Lucchese family sparks unrest among the Bronx and New Jersey factions. To maintain control, Vic and Gass exploit the Mafia's code of unswerving obedience to the boss.
it was a thing that they had you by the galloons because the rules are what the boss says goes. That's what it is. There's no democracy. Say, oh, you know what? We could do it another way. Yeah, sure. That's the end of you.
Vic and Gass's campaign begins with the Bronx faction. The Lucchese family controls the garment district in Manhattan. A monopoly over all merchandise haulage, as well as loan sharking and extortion, nets millions of dollars a year. For years, the district has been controlled by Michael Papadillo, a soldier from the Bronx. Vic and Gass want Papadillo to hand over control of the garment district to them. Papadillo is stubborn and considers the demand to be unreasonable.
He says, listen, stay out of the garment center. I says, you know what's gonna happen to you, Mike? I said, they're gonna kill you, and they're gonna tell me to kill you.
Sure enough, Vic and Gass turn to Al Diarco to do their dirty work.
After we located him, and we had to get somebody that he absolutely trusted, and they brought him in a bagel bakery, and I was lying in wait for him, and I killed him. He was bludgeoned and shot to death.
Vic and Gass's Bronx campaign continues. A Lucchese soldier, Anthony DeLappy, refuses to report and goes on the run to California. Casso believes DeLappy is plotting against him and Vic, and so orders him killed. For the first time, the loyal troops begin to question the wisdom of their leader.
We're gonna kill the whole world? Everybody's just suddenly go out of character and they're all gonna...
But for a moment, Diarco and the other Lucchese captains feel they have no choice but to obey.
To be a good soldier, you have to follow orders. To make it successful in that life, you have to have blind faith. Because if you see something and it doesn't seem right to you or anything, you don't question it. When you start questioning things in that life, you can run into trouble real fast.
Diarco sends a hit team to California to dispatch DeLappy. Vic and Gass now move the battle to New Jersey. At the end of 1988, Tommy Riccardi meets Anthony Casso for the first time since he's taken control of the family. At the meeting, Tommy is made the new captain of the New Jersey faction. Under the previous boss, New Jersey had enjoyed a significant degree of independence. But when Tommy begins reporting to Vic and Gass in New York, they make it clear that things are changing.
Once I became the captain, everything was running pretty smooth, but it didn't last too long where everything just started to fall apart.
The previous captain, Anthony Asatoro, has been paying less than 1% of all New Jersey's income up to the Lucchese boss. Casso now demands 50%, but Asatoro refuses. So Casso summons both Asatoro and Riccardi to a meeting.
The first time that I knew something was wrong was when Vic and Gass had sent for 4 of us from New Jersey. After meeting them at one place, they tried to lug us to a different location, and we didn't go.
The Mafia uses tricks like these when they are about to carry out a hit. Tommy worries it could be an ambush.
Knowing their history, knowing how they were thinking, we felt they were just taking us somewhere to kill us, and that's that's why we didn't go.
It's a major display of disrespect for the new Lucchese leaders. Fearful of Vic and Gass's reaction to the insult, Tommy agrees to a meeting instead with their number 2, Al Diarco.
And they came to the restaurant, La Donna Rosa. They were shaking in their boots. All right?
When Tommy arrives in the basement, the atmosphere is charged.
I walked down in the basement, and Al's there. My friends are also down there, and he's got some newspaper rolled up in his hand, and he's banging it against a pole, and he's telling us that we have a very bad leak in our family.
Calling someone a rat is a deadly accusation in La Cosa Nostra.
I don't think there was anybody in that room from the New Jersey side knew for sure if we were leaving that appointment.
D'Arco is not ready to condemn the Jersey crew quite yet.
I got to try to postpone this thing. You know, you can't just keep killing guys and the hit of the day a week club. You know what I mean? That's what Gas Pipe wanted.
Tommy Riccardi is aware of the fate of Michael Papadillo and the other Bronx soldiers who stood up against Vic and Gas. He will not let New Jersey be destroyed by their violent campaign.
The decision to break away from Vic and Gas and break away from the family has never been done. I mean, no one's ever done that and survived it. But it was just better to go out that way than just to be led somewhere and slaughtered.
Tommy's decision is met with incandescent rage. Vic and Gas give D'Arco the order. The New Jersey faction must die.
We drove out there looking in Jersey for Ricciardi.
For months, Al D'Arco and Fat Pete Chiodo hunt the New Jersey crew. But getting at Tommy and his men on their own turf proves difficult.
Took up half of our time trying to get them to kill them. Didn't make no sense.
Finally, D'Arco gets a break when Fat Pete Chiodo catches up with one of Tommy's men. Joseph Lamorte is shot twice, but survives. Tommy's men are terrified. His crew divides. Half join Casso in an attempt to save their own lives. These men now become part of the hit teams hunting for their own captain, Tommy Riccardi.
I didn't expect to survive it, but I just felt I would die on my terms and the way I want to die. You know, not being slaughtered in some room, just out on the street, you know?
But before the violence can escalate, Vic and Gas are forced to call off the hunt. FBI agent Richard Rudolph has finally found a way to take down the Lucchese leadership. And the secret lies in windows. During the 70s and 80s, America goes through an energy crisis, and there is a big push to become more energy efficient. The New York City Housing Authority decides to replace all the windows in its housing projects with more energy efficient designs. Contracts to replace these windows are incredibly lucrative. With the Lucchese family controlling the Ironworkers Union, Vic and Gas are in prime position to take a big cut of this windows replacement scam. By charging the Housing Authority union wages for using non-union staff, the scam nets millions.
We came up with a number of about $190 million worth of contracts were given out over about a 10-year period. What organized crime was getting, at least for the window replacements, about $2 for every window that was replaced.
The man behind the scam is a mafia associate named Pete Savino. Dozens of high-ranking mobsters have a share in his window replacement company. But what the mob doesn't realize is that Pete has been compromised. In November 1987, the feds arrest Pete Savino following the discovery of 2 bodies buried under his factory floor.
We told Pete at that particular time his life was over in terms of what he was doing, and now he was going to have to work with us to get out of this particular mess he was in.
Savino agrees to work with Agent Rudolph in exchange for a more lenient sentence. He wears a wire and records hundreds of hours of conversations with his mafia associates. Rudolph discovers that Vic and Gas are deeply involved in the Windows scam. The case the feds put together is huge.
The Windows case was so incredibly disruptive to the major organized crime families here that it resulted in a devastating series of prosecutions.
May 28, 1990, the FBI swoops in. But thanks to a tip-off, Vic and Gas have already gone on the lam. Before he leaves, Casso meets with Al Diarco, his number 2. He makes Diarco the acting boss of the Lucchese family. With the FBI on his tail, Casso's paranoia finally overwhelms him.
He was always paranoid about one thing or the other. This guy is that, and that guy is this.
Casso will kill anyone he suspects of betrayal. But when he turns on his most loyal men, he forces them into the arms of the FBI. 1990, New York City. The Windows case has led to the arrest of the top echelon of the city's mafia families.
15 in all, arrested by the FBI or due to surrender on racketeering charges.
But when the FBI makes its arrests, the bosses of the Lucchese family have disappeared. Vic Amuso, also known as Little Vic, and Anthony Casso, or Gaspipe, have gone on the lam. Apprehending the fugitives becomes a top priority.
At the time, it was a very big priority to find Vic and Gas. They made the most amount of money out of the Windows case, and they were very violent individuals.
Vic and Gas run the Lucchese family with an iron fist. Through intimidation and murder, they have subjugated the Bronx and New Jersey factions. Gaspipe has become an expert at manipulating Little Vic.
He totally wiped Vic's mind, destroyed Vic's mind. Vic was walking around like Don Corleone in The Godfather, had a big black Buick. He had the hat like Al Pacino wears, the long coat. We started laughing. Me and my son were laughing. He totally was like off his rocker. That's Gaspipe's influence. So he would do whatever Gaspipe wanted.
With Casso calling the shots, the killings now spiral out of control.
I think that there were a lot of people outside of the Lucchese family wondering, what Gaspipe's state of mind was.
Before he leaves Brooklyn, Casso orders Diarco to kill a Bronx captain, Mike Salerno. Bound by the code of obedience to the boss, Diarco meets with one of his enforcers.
I says, I got bad news for you, Joe. He said, what? I says, Mike, he flipped. He says, you gotta do it right away. He shot him, and then he cut his throat to make sure he was dead. And then they put him in his own car trunk.
June 5th, 1990. Police respond to reports of a foul smell on Westervelt Avenue, Brooklyn. They find an abandoned car, and in the trunk is the decomposing body of Mike Salerno. No one seems to be safe from Casso's paranoid mind. He continues to turn on his own crew. Bruno Facciola is a captain from the Brooklyn faction. Casso tells Diarco that he believes Bruno is ratting to the feds.
Bruno's a stool pigeon. Bruno was in the mob 30 years. All of a sudden, he's a stool pigeon.
Staying true to the Mafia code of obedience, Diarco feels he has to follow orders. He directs his men to lure Bruno to a car garage in Brooklyn.
They had to tackle him, dragged him in there, and he was saying, Bruno says something like, hey, I want to see my daughter. Come on, just let me. They just stabbed him and shot him.
The killers leave a canary in his mouth to indicate he sang to the feds. Anthony Gaspipe Casso's bloody campaign against his own men seems endless, but his targets extend beyond the Lucchese family. Ever since the attempt on his life, Casso has been looking for payback on the boss of the Gambino family, John Gotti. After attempts to kill his underboss, Sammy Gravano, fail, Casso decides to use dirty tactics. For years, Casso has kept a dangerous secret from the rest of the family. He has been working hand in hand with two corrupt NYPD cops. Louis Eppolito is a detective in the 63rd Precinct in Brooklyn, a mafia heartland. And Stephen Caracappa is head of the Lucchese section of the NYPD Organized Crime Squad. The cops are perfectly placed to help Casso and have been feeding his paranoia by providing the names of possible enemies. But the cops are prepared to do far more for Casso than just obtain information. He now hires the cops to murder one of Gotti's key men. The target is Eddie Leno.
Eddie Leno was a captain in the Gambino family. And again, it went back to Anthony Case's obsession with finding everybody who had to do with his attempted homicide. And in his mind, Eddie Leno was somebody who approved of the hit. So he was going to make sure that he paid for it.
For $65,000 each, the cops accept the job. November 6, 1990, as Eddie Leno drives on the Belt Parkway in Brooklyn, an unmarked police car pulls him over. Caracappa approaches the driver window. The contract is completed. January 9, 1991, Anthony Casso sneaks back into Brooklyn and summons Al Diarco to a meeting. Diarco's doubts about Casso's state of mind are confirmed.
You know, Al, he says, I'm gonna buy a house and I'm gonna invite 10 guys and then have a drink. They sit down, we're gonna kill them all. What is that? I mean, what kind of sense does that make?
Anthony Casso's murdering spree continues.
It's like all the emperors sitting around, Caesar and all these people, right? Thumbs down, kill them. And have a drink and eat. Next guy's name comes up. Thumbs down, kill him. The gladiators are getting killed, right? They never thumbs up. After a while, they're looking at each other on this table, see? Now they're gonna start killing each other.
Casso has ordered the deaths of captains in the Bronx, New Jersey, and even his own Brooklyn faction. But his next campaign fills Diarco with horror. Casso tells Diarco that he's worried about the integrity of a top enforcer in the family, Fat Pete Chiodo. The 400-pound hitman is a loyal Brooklyn captain who has carried out many of the murders Casso has ordered.
He wants to kill guys that don't break the rules. See, he's got no bounty. He's like a psychopath.
Diarco does what he can to head off this latest order.
So I'm stalling and stalling and stalling. Making one excuse after the other. Not making it appear like an excuse.
But Diarco knows he can't stall forever. May 8, 1991. Fat Pete is changing the oil in his car at a service station in Brooklyn. The hit team is convinced they have succeeded and that Pete is dead. But they're wrong. Lucchese family capo Fat Pete Chiodo lies in a hospital with 12 bullet wounds. As he considers his options, Fat Pete makes a fateful decision. He agrees to cooperate with the FBI. It's the break the feds are hoping for.
It was a banner year for the government when Pete Chiodo became a cooperating witness.
Casso is livid that Diarco's team bungled the hit and so strips him of his position as acting boss. Now that he is out of favor with the Lucchese leadership, Al Diarco knows he is in serious danger.
He wants me out of the way. See, he had no limits on what he wanted, that's what he wanted. But he had no brakes. Like, he would just kill you for any little whim.
Just a few days after DiArco's demotion, the FBI arrests Vicamuso in a shopping mall in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Put it down and face me!
Caso now takes over as boss of the family.
Get on your knees!
DiArco knows that with Caso in charge, he and his family will never be safe. With out-of-control mob boss Anthony Caso in charge, Al DiArco, former acting boss of the Lucchese crime family, hands himself in to the FBI. After Fat Pete's decision to flip, the FBI is astonished that an even higher-ranking mobster volunteers to cooperate.
Pete opened the door, there's no doubt about it. Al came in and blew the door off and the wall with it, and created such a big opening for others to come walking down that road.
DiArco's decision to cooperate sends shockwaves throughout the criminal world.
Even if a small fry flips, you know, it's a big deal. But to have a man in a position of responsibility to cooperate with the government and give up, I don't know how that feels.
The FBI rush all of DiArco's family into witness protection. But before they can do the same for Fat Pete, Caso makes a move that shocks everyone. He puts out a hit on Fat Pete's sister.
Even by mob standards, it was shocking. Two men wearing ski masks pumped 3 bullets into a civilian, a woman, a mother.
They broke the main rule. Your families are supposed to be respected like my family. They're supposed to respect my family like I respect it. Like they're part of our family.
By breaking a highly cherished rule in La Cosa Nostra, Caso's actions caused the Lucchese structure to fall apart. Mutiny is in the air. Free from the chains of honor to the boss, longtime rebel Tommy Riccardi follows his peers into witness protection.
I mean, I didn't respect him anymore, I didn't honor him. That doesn't make it right, what I did, but I had a shot for a new life and I took it.
Though justified, the defection of so many top mafia captains repels the rank-and-file gangsters of New York's underworld.
Witness protection program? But these guys been with us all our lives. Witness protection program? Do you remember what we did when we were kids together? Witness protection program. You give up your friends, you give up everybody, you give up everything.
With the secrets of the Lucchese family laid bare, it doesn't take long for FBI agent Richard Rudolph to track down Anthony Caso. Early morning, January 19th, 1993. Richard Rudolph and a SWAT team wait outside a house in Bud Lake, New Jersey. Caso is a psychotic multiple murderer and weapons expert. Rudolph knows to expect a full-blown firefight.
Freeze! Come downstairs.
But Caso has no prior warning of the raid and emerges from the shower wearing just a robe. Rudolph confronts the mafia boss.
He says, "I know you get me one day," or something to that effect is what he said.
Catching Anthony Caso is the final piece in the puzzle.
He was about the most treacherous sociopath in organized crime during that era. He had a willingness to use murder with very, very little restraint. He was remorseless. He had a combination of power and lethal power that made him, I think, one of the most dangerous persons on the East Coast.
In a last-minute attempt to save his own skin, Caso seeks a plea deal with the feds. He offers to become a confidential witness in exchange for leniency. Greg O'Connell and Richard Rudolph discover the identities of the 2 corrupt cops that Caso has on his books. It's an unexpected bonus to a seminal prosecution. But Casso is flaky and inconsistent with his evidence. The deal falls apart. He is sentenced to 12 consecutive life sentences in the Supermax prison in Florence, Colorado. Vic and Gass's rise to power leaves the Lucchese family in ruin.
They tore it to pieces. They destroyed our honor.
There's no question in my mind that Vic and Gass destroyed the Lucchese family. And it's lost its honor and respect under the leadership of those two.
When guys at the top start to go down like that, then... But there's nowhere to jump off this ship. And when bosses are giving each other up, it signals an end to what this thing was.